Yo, we back up. We back up. That's what Louis Hinchliffe is saying right now. We are back. Listen, man, this is wild. This is both crazy and disappointing. And I'm going to break those two things down because that was my initial response when seeing that Louis Hinchliffe of Great Britain is now back competing for the University of Houston, and he's going to be debuting this tomorrow, tomorrow, I guess on Friday, at the Big 12 championships representing for Houston, despite already being a pro athlete, despite already winning an Olympic medal. This is kind of wild. So just three initial thoughts to break down just what happened. I'm going to link in the description for this Houston Chronicle article. And I'm going to break down why I think this is disappointing and then also why I think this is crazy. Now, also shout out to Coach Rob. He did a video a couple weeks or a couple months ago, but link in the description for that, and he'll probably do a video today as well, but just about a situation like this actually happening, considering what's occurred in the NBA. So definitely check that out. Again, link in the description for Coach Rob's video. But just some thoughts. So Louis Hinchliffe, 2024 NCAA champion in the 100 meters. He was one of the huge prospects, out of Houston. He was Carl Lewis's, new protege to a degree, and he had a lot of hype behind him. In 2024, he won the NCAA championships. Later on that year, he competed for Great Britain on the 4x1 and won a bronze medal at the Paris Olympic Games. Right after that, he signed a professional contract with ASICS and he turned pro. So as we have, understood it in the track and field world, and I say understood it because that's been the norm, but, there's no rules, of course, now very clearly. Once you turn pro, you don't come back into the NCAA, right? There's no opportunity to do so. But obviously, in the past couple of years, NIL deals and all these different aspects have changed the landscape and kind of exposed the lack of rules and structure in our sport. So Louis Hinchliffe now, he dealt with some injuries in 2025. He wasn't able to, compete at world championships and et cetera, et cetera. But he is now 100% back at the University of Houston, and he's going to be competing at the Big 12 championships tomorrow, literally tomorrow, on Friday in Lubbock, Texas. So that's going to be at Texas Tech. So just for a little bit of context from the article, the Houston Chronicle, again, link in the description. They were able to interview Carl Lewis, and they were kind of breaking down his history. So Hinchliffe has not competed at UH since he won the NCAA 100 meters in June 2024. 2 months later, Hinchliffe won a bronze medal as part of Great Britain's 4x1 at the Paris Olympics. After his initial international success, Hinchliffe decided to leave school to begin a pro track career. So he had signed with ASICS after he, was at the Olympic Games. Now, after that, though, he dealt with a ton of different setbacks. So in the 19 months since, Hinchliffe ran briefly with Great Britain's national team as an independent at a few events. It's surprising they say independent. I mean, I guess that highlights how not as a pro, but just as an independent, right? Although he was limited with a stretch fracture in his back and a hamstring injury, he also suffered a personal loss with the death of his father, Stuart, to cancer just a couple months after the Olympics. So many things happened. Last October, October 2025, Hinchliffe reached out to Lewis, UH's fourth-year head coach and 9-time Olympic gold medalist, about the possibility of returning to Houston. This is going to be very important because some of the context of him actually leaving Houston to go pro is very important as it relates to Carl Lewis. There was one caveat though. Lewis has a steadfast rule that he won't train any athlete who hasn't graduated college or isn't enrolled in school. I simply won't do it, Lewis said. You go to school to graduate and get your degree. You don't go to school to just run track. He understood that. All right, so Louis Hinchliffe understood that. And that began a months-long process for Hinchliffe with the help of UH's coaching staff and the school's compliance office to gain approval to return to school. Now, here's some of the aspects of the deal, though we don't know much. UH submitted Hinchliffel's shoe contract with ASICS for review by NIL Go, the clearinghouse established by the College Sports Commission to vet outside deals between athletes and sponsors. The CSS, College Sports Commission, signed off on Hinchliffel's deal, clearing the first hurdle. Now, this is the first kind of thing before I continue. There's not many, I guess it's not very clear yet on how or why they cleared this, cleared him to compete in the NCAA, or at least cleared his, his contract, right? Again, he signed a pro contract with ASICS as opposed to an NIL deal, as you're part of, when you're competing in college. Now, granted, we don't know the specific details of Louis Hinchlife's ASICS contract, right? We don't know any of those details. There could be some specific clause, who knows? So maybe that gave, them the out to be able to clear this for him to return to the NCAA versus, what might actually exist for other professional athletes. Who knows? But this specific thing, giving him the clear and signing this off, allowing him to actually compete, based on him already having an ASICS deal, I would really like to see some more details as it relates to this. We may never actually find details. Again, contracts in track and field are, pretty much anonymous, so we'll never probably hear about it. But there's some gray area here, and that's specifically where I'm very interested in. But after that, Hinchliffe, he worked with UH's compliance offices beginning December to fulfill a checklist of items, part of student-athlete reinstatement process that the NCAA signed off this week. He enrolled in classes at UH for the spring semester that began in mid-January. He will now have 2 years of eligibility remaining. So, and the article kind of continues. I'll talk about that in a second. But now he's coming back into UH. He's going to compete, and he'll have 2 years of full eligibility remaining. Again, I'm going to circle back to some things as it relates to Carl Lewis and Louis Hinchliffe. But, this is big. So you had a pro athlete who just returned who was competing and won medals at the Olympic Games and was competing on the circuit as a professional, and now is back fully as a Houston athlete, as an NCAA athlete, and has a chance to win an NCAA title once again, right? This is different than an athlete like we saw Sean Masongani, just as an example. He competed at the Olympic Games, and he ran at, what am I thinking of? He ran for South Africa. He got the silver medal, for that. And he was an NCAA athlete, but that's a slightly different because he never signed a professional contract at that point, right? He never left school to go pro, if I'm remembering correctly, right? He might have actually been done at that point. But, just as an example of an NCAA athlete doing so. Here, you had a pro athlete who actually left and now is back. Now, in here, the article finishes, it says, there is no designation for professional track, Lewis said, paving the way for Hinchliffe to return to school. The definition of amateurism has become a hot topic in recent months, particularly in college basketball, with some instances of former G League and international players being granted eligibility. While some pros have been granted eligibility, Charles Bediako, who signed an official NBA contract, was ultimately denied after playing 5 games at Alabama. So, that kind of is an example though. Hinchliffe is recovered from his injuries. He's healthy, et cetera, et cetera. So who knows? He can run, and he may actually win, Big 12s. He may actually win an NCAA title. He got 2 years of eligibility left. We're going to see. Now, as I look at it, the big thing, first off, why this is disappointing and then why this is crazy. The disappointing part is, if you remember back in 2024, when Louis Hinchliffe announced that he was leaving he was leaving Houston, and he was going to turn pro, and he was going to go back to Great Britain, actually to train under Richard Kilty, who was the 2014 world indoor champion in the 60 meters, right, representing Great Britain. Carl Lewis at that point was actually very disappointed. He was saying that this is not the right move, not even specifically around the training aspect, but around the education aspect. Carl Lewis was like, yo, you shouldn't give up your education. You shouldn't leave school to pursue your professional career. I want you to do that, but it's also important that you finish your education. That is absolutely key. And that's different from how many athletes would do it. I'm just going off the top of my head, but for example, Christian Coleman, he went pro early in 2017, but he finished his education at Tennessee, right? He finished his education there. Versus Louis Hinchliffe, he just went back to Great Britain because he wanted to just fully pursue his professional career. So that's why some of the things I was saying I'm gonna come back to about Carl Lewis speaking about the whole education aspect. It's like, I appreciate Carl Lewis saying that because that's like his focus. He's like, listen, I don't want you coming back here to train as a pro. I don't train pros unless they actually have gotten their education, right? And I think that is very, very key. And almost like I find it very disappointing because Louis Hinchliffe was being told that you need to stay here, you need to focus, finish your education. I got you, right? I got you. And this isn't like a whole praise Carl Lewis. Like, I'm not saying all that. All I'm saying is he kind of left without seeing the bigger picture of, let me finish my education and then let me go pro afterwards because this may not work out. Unfortunately, it literally didn't work out. So it's kind of disappointing. Obviously, injuries, family issues, but it's like, imagine he would have been at Houston. He could have been a 2-time NCAA champion at this point. He could have still competed for Great Britain at the World Championships. And then he could have finished off his career in 2026 in the NCAAs and had a glide path, signed pro with ASICS or whichever, shoe brand he wanted to. And then, had a glide path to competing at the World Champs and Olympics in 27, 28, right? Like just that idea of, I guess, him not seeing the bigger picture and being told, but, not seeing that bigger picture. That's kind of disappointing. And it's disappointing just for the track and field landscape on a whole where, we have athletes have these big dreams. And in our sport, that's very, very individual. It's very cutthroat. So you don't have the structure of a team around you. You are literally on your own. You are out there going to meets on your own. I remember last year in the middle of the season, seeing Louis Hinchliffe having run like 16 seconds or 15 seconds in the 100 meters. Like I couldn't see the race unless that was the results. And it's like, oh, he got injured. Like he's doing that on his own. Like sure, maybe he has his coach and et cetera, but you don't have the infrastructure of a college team behind you. So you left all of that when you were being told to stay. And then now you're kind of circling back. Again, I'm wishing the best for Louis Hinchliffe, but that's the disappointing part for me. And again, these are just initial thoughts. I'm gonna probably talk more next week on when I do a live stream. The second thing is just the fact that this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, and this comes into the whole professional aspect. And again, shout out to Coach Rob because he's obviously been talking about this for a long time. And the video in the description from Coach Rob that he done again a couple months ago or weeks ago. What's next? Like, what's next after this, right? Louis Hinchliffe, again, he turned professional, signed with ASICS. Sure, we don't know the aspects of the deal, et cetera, et cetera. He won a medal with Great Britain at the Olympics, but now he's coming back. He's like, nah, I can come back, right? My pro contract, it's whatever. I can come back and I can potentially win another NCAA title. What's stopping any top professional athlete from returning to the NCAA and competing for medals if they still have eligibility or if they've never actually competed in the NCAA? As an example, what if Kenny B wants to just come back? Remember, Kenny B, he was competing for junior college, for Indian Hills Community College back in 2019? 2019. And then he went pro with Nike. He still has eligibility, right, in the NCAA. He literally never competed in NCAA D1. What if he's like, oh yeah, I want to come back? Right? What if, obviously, Noah Lyles, right? What if he wants to decide to be like, oh, maybe Florida actually does make sense, right? Melissa Jefferson Wooden, she went pro in 2022, but she didn't finish her NCAA career. What if she's like, let me go circle back and get another year. Let me go dominate the NCAA real quick. Sha'Carri Richardson, right? 2019, she was only a freshman at LSU when she won the 100 meters and got second in the 200. What if she's like, this pro thing, it's cool, but like, let me circle back and go back into the NCAA. And that's just all the American athletes. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. What if Christian Coleman, right? He had one more year of eligibility. What if, I don't know, what are the rules around what if Oblique Seville is like, hey, what I'm saying? I've never been to NCAA. This would be cool. What if I just try this out, see what's up? Let me pick one of these schools like Arkansas and see what's up, right? Like, there's Jaden Hibbert, obviously he's coming back from injury, but, triple jump, one of the best triple jumpers in NCAA history. He went pro early. What if he wants to come back, right? Like, where does it stop? And from my understanding, there's no true age limit. Maybe there is, I don't know. But it's just the idea that you can turn professional, whatever professional actually means in our sport, and then come back into the NCAA, into an amateur sport, or whatever amateur actually means, considering all the NIL aspects now. Like, it's a wild, wild west to a degree. That's what's crazy to me, because now we actually have a true example of this coming into fruition. This isn't I guess it's relatively high profile because he's an NCAA champion, and he has an Olympic medal in the 4x1, but how much farther are athletes willing to take it? You know what I'm saying? Like, especially we're in an off year. Obviously, I don't think anyone's going to do it like right now, but going forward, when we get to, 2030, who knows what may occur, when we get down that path. I don't know, but these are just some initial thoughts. Again, link in the description for the article from the Houston Chronicle, and also check out Coach Rob, his previous video, and then also he'll probably have another video coming out. And yeah, we'll see how this pans out. Again, Louis Hinchliffe, his personal best, what does he run in terms of personal best? 100 meters, he's run 9.95. That's when he won the NCAA title. He ran a windy 9.84 plus 2.5 in the 100. 60 meters, he ran 6.60. So, it's all right. It's not too bad. But who knows, man? It's going to be crazy if Louis Hinchliffe actually wins stuff. I'd say stuff because it's like, what if he wins Big 12s this weekend? Right? What if he goes to NCAAs and wins or medal or gets top 3, top 5 or whatever it may be? Like, yo, this is crazy. But let me know what you think about Louis Hinchliffe coming back to college and this whole landscape of things. Again, next week I'll probably go live and talk a little bit more about this. But appreciate y'all. Let me know what you think.